4:30.
Are we ready?
I think so.
Welcome to the June 18, 2019 regular board meeting of the Everett Public Schools Board of Directors. Meeting here is hereby called to order. Please stand and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the secretary please call the roll?
President Andrews.
Present.
Vice President Mason.
Present.
Director Lassane.
Present.
Director Mitchell. Director Nankar.
Present.
Student Representative Tran.
Thank you. Our first item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Cohn, will you please introduce this afternoon's agenda?
Yes, consistent with the plans established at your 2018 Summer Planning Workshop, tonight's agenda contains several elements related to both the district's strategic plan and the board's annual goals. There is this evening a segment for routine business, a segment for recognition items, a segment for board comments, one for the Superintendent's Report, a segment for strategic progress reporting, a segment for information items, one for new business, and one for upcoming agenda items. The following changes have been made since we published the agenda to you. Item 7.2, the personnel report, was updated with some last-minute changes to staff designations with respect to things like resignations versus retirements. Item 7.13, we made a change to that approval of a gift to Evergreen Middle School because the donation form needed to be added with correct information. And item 9.1, the Superintendent's Report, will be updated during the meeting as is customary for our regular meetings. Item 10.1, the Strategic Plan End of Year Progress Report for 2018-19 on slide 17 was updated. The graph didn't quite work properly, so we had to fix the graph on that particular page. Item 11.1, the board annual workshop planning item, and item 14.3, board annual meeting plan for 2019-20, had the updated draft items added. In one case, the board workshop agenda, and the other, really the first formal draft of the annual meeting plan. Cabinet finished with them on Monday, so then we added them after the cabinet meeting. So that's why we made those attachment adjustments. The agenda itself is not different from when it was published to you, but we always liked you to know about those detail adjustments in the materials before the meeting. So the board may, of course, select to change the order of business by a majority vote of the members. This is not the point during the agenda to request items be moved from the consent agenda. So the meeting is as we published it to you, with those last-minute corrections and additions of content to the actual agenda items. We ask your approval of the agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Cohn. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Mason and seconded by Director Nankar to adopt the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries, and the agenda is adopted.
Thank you.
We'll move on to section 5.0, recognition.
We are going to ask Mitch Entler, somebody called him the president of North Middle School today, and I can't seem to get that out of my brain. The principal of North Middle School. Mitch is going to come up to the lectern, and he is going to introduce to us the Middle School Art Teacher of the Year. And that's all I'm going to say, because if I say more, it'll steal his thunder. Mitch, you might want to lift the microphone, I think, a little bit. Good. And it's pretty strong, and he'll adjust it. Yeah, you don't need to lean into it. It'll pick you up.
Good afternoon. I appreciate the board giving me the opportunity to introduce Ms. Cynthia Galb, this year's Pacific Region Middle School Art Teacher of the Year award winner. Ms. Galb has been a dedicated teacher at North Middle School for the last 15 years, and her leadership has impacted our students and community through multiple programs. In the past, Ms. Galb has led the implementation of the Evening of the Arts, which celebrated our drama, music, and visual arts programs. She also has run after-school art programs, allowing students to dive deeper into their craft. As a member of our staff, she has been a leader on our leadership team, our safety committee, and our building design team. Outside the classroom, Ms. Galb participates with multiple professional organizations. She has served as president of the Washington State Art Education Association and serves as an online mentor for teaching-related groups where they share ideas about effective lesson design, classroom management strategies, and effective supplies for students. All of this work has also led to King 5 coming out and visiting us this year and doing a profile piece on her. Ms. Galb's strength is building relationships, whether with her students, colleagues in our building, or colleagues across the country. She is driven to create the most engaging student experiences possible, and her focus on quality instruction and working collaboratively with colleagues benefits the entire North Middle School community. It's my privilege to introduce Ms. Cynthia Galb.
I just wanted to thank a couple people as this is a nice opportunity. I'd like to thank Kelly Shepard, who hired me for the Everett Public Schools. And I still remember how I had long hair and paintbrushes holding up my hair, and she just thought that that was the best way to present myself as an art teacher. And then Mary O'Brien, who was a very awesome principal and influential in helping us get things started with the Evening of the Arts. Joyce also has been very supportive of the arts at North Middle School. And so I just thank those people for helping me do the best job I can do.
Thank you.
Sure, come on up.
We have a certificate we would like to give to you. It reads, the National Art Education Association recognizes and honors Cynthia Galb from North Middle School as the 2019 Pacific Region Middle School Art Educator of the Year. Yeah. It's also a large region as well.
Yes, it is. It includes
Yes.
like Alaska and Canada and
Ooh,
Hawaii.
exactly.
Yeah, it's a
Oh,
big
yes.
region.
So our sincere congratulations to you, and we know how important arts education is for students, and we really appreciate the nearly 2 decades, 15 years worth of serving our students. And congratulations, my little. Yeah, thank you. Come here, come center. Okay. You're from the center. I think we should have a king question.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Do one more.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations.
And we'll move on to section 6.0, audience comments. The school board sets aside time during each regular board meeting to hear from our constituents. We do this because we value public input and want to hear and understand the perspectives you bring to the table. Dr. Cohn, are there any requests to comment during this public comments time?
Yes, there is one.
Just one? One? Okay.
Yes.
On behalf of the board, I welcome you. Our school board meetings are designed to conduct district business in public. We welcome ideas and opinions presented in that same spirit. I will share how this portion of the meeting is conducted. The superintendent will call you to the podium to speak, and you will have 3 minutes for your comments. All comments are recorded and will be made available for future viewing by the board and public. This public comment time is for the board to listen to what you have to say. It's not a time for debate or discussion, and board members will not respond to individual comments during this time. As board president, I have the responsibility to ensure the meeting and conversations are orderly, productive, and respectful, and I appreciate your cooperation in helping me carry out that responsibility. Dr. Cohn?
Thank you. I'm going to call the speaker up, and when the speaker arrives at the lectern, the green light will signify the start of the 3 minutes, and then the yellow, the 30-second warning, and the red, the expiration of time. So this evening, Corey Archer has signed up to speak with the board and wishes to address the board regarding SEIU 925, and Corey is an employee of the district within the grounds operation.
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Good afternoon. My name is Corey Archer, and I work for the Grounds Department. I'm speaking today on behalf of our union members from SEIU Local 925. We represent classified staff. Thank you for being open to hear us today, and letters will be made available for you guys today on what I speak about. SEIU Local 925 members are here today in show of solidarity as we continue bargaining. We hope to achieve our shared goals and concerns addressed in this contract negotiating cycle. SEIU represents custodians, food service, grounds, and information systems technology. We take pride in our work and protect taxpayers' investments in our community. We also support local elections and levies, and out of 200 members, 195 members live and vote in Snohomish County, helping to pass levies and bonds. Our custodians take care of 17 elementary schools, currently building number 18, 5 middle schools, and 4 high schools, maintaining our buildings for the health and safety of the children and fellow staff members. Community members and outside groups use our schools almost daily for games, tournaments, and other events. Our grounds crew maintain approximately 600 acres, including wetlands, wetland buffers, and all the other grass. 78 acres of parking lots and parking lot landscapes with a crew of 13 staff. Our food service staff are unique in Everett School District, as each school is their own central kitchen, where other schools have a large central kitchen and meals are delivered to schools already prepared, simply heat and serve. Our staff order, track, and prepare all meals, feeding the children in our schools, often working through their breaks to ensure the job gets done. Information systems technologies are the heart and soul of the Everett School District, from administration at every single school, supporting every child's education through technology, especially the one-to-one initiative we are currently rolling out. With just 14 staff, they handle the help desk to triage technology problems in the entire district, while field techs go out on site to work and or repair a problem. From hardware to software support, they provide training for teachers and students on new programs. The growth alone in technology has exploded. It's gone from 16 to 642 devices to 19, over 13,000. As you can see in our letters, we increased significantly with 14 staff over the last 4 years, has brought our device totals to nearly 14,000 district-wide. We ask the Board of Directors to support and respect our contribution to the school district and support bargaining a fair and equitable contract. SCI members are united for a fair contract, including wages, cost of living, healthcare, and transparent progressive discipline. Respectfully, Local 925 Everett Chapter members. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Ready for the consent agenda?
Yep. We'll now move to section 7.0, the consent agenda. Dr. Cohn, would you please provide an introduction to the consent agenda?
Certainly. The board's consent agenda includes repetitive business items. Examples of this type of item include meeting minutes, personnel actions, expense vouchers, surplus lists, gifts and grants, and recurring contracts. Sometimes the consent agenda will include items that occur less frequently, but are of a routine business nature. The less frequently occurring consent agenda items are usually reviewed by the board in its Friday report 1 or more weeks before the board meeting, when those items are scheduled to appear on the consent agenda. This gives directors time to ask staff questions about those items or to consider discussion about the policy implications of those items. If a consent agenda item is removed by the concurrence of 2 directors, that item is placed in new business and the remaining items are automatically renumbered. The board votes on the consent agenda in a single motion. By its definition, a consent agenda is not debatable. In the case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office has received no questions or comments regarding any of the items. Therefore, the consent agenda is presented as published, and we ask your approval thereof.
And a lengthy consent agenda it is.
I think it's the longest one in 10 years of experience here. I don't remember having 45 items on the consent agenda before.
I do
But
either.
Larry has at least a third of that with policy adjustments and consolidation. So, we want to make sure we're transparent.
That's correct. A motion to approve the consent agenda as presented is in order. Is there a move?
Second.
It's been moved by Director Lassane and seconded by Director Mason to approve the consent agenda. Does any director wish to remove an item from the agenda and place it in the new business section of the agenda? Hearing no requests, we will proceed to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Consent agenda is approved. We will move on to section 8.0, board comments. This is an opportunity for directors and student representatives to share their activities and comments that relate to board service. I would like to start this evening by saying that since this is Dr. Cohn's last board meeting, the board would like to recognize and show our appreciation for his years of service to our district. Actually, this is the third recognition I've done for you. And I'm still finding great things to say about you as superintendent. So in prior recognitions, I've commented that Everett Public Schools has benefited from your leadership, that you have, I've cited your accomplishments such as building bridges with our different diverse groups, their families and communities, of course, our soaring graduation rates. I've talked about how you crafted our strategic plan, which still drives our work, which we'll hear about tonight. I've mentioned the implementation of data-driven systems and the continuous improvement that is in all areas of our district. But tonight, I think I will focus on just a couple of things that were first thing specific to the board superintendent communications. However, it also has to do with public communications, and that is the transition to board docs. And that happened quite some time ago, but because I've been on the board since you were hired, I've been around to see the changes. And while I love board docs and I would never change it, never go back, it also has, I think, presented the opportunity to kind of sometimes overwhelm with information. Coincidentally, I stumbled upon an artifact that demonstrates this fact. Directors, take note, this is Dr. Cohn's first Friday report. One-sided, one page.
Are we framing that?
Why I have this 10 years later, I'm not sure, but it tells you something about my office. But I truly was just looking through some things the other day and stumbled upon this. It was a coincidence, but I will read. It's dated July 10th, 2009. And as I said, this was pre-board docs. So we received paper copies of everything. So it reads, "Welcome to my first Friday report as Superintendent of Schools for Everett!" Exclamation point. Thank you for the opportunity to count myself among the Everett team. I'm pleased to be a part of a wonderful family of educators and community leaders. What follows today is a brief summary of our activities this week. Dr. Cohn goes on to outline meeting with Debbie and Kathy, Jeff Moore. The superintendent's cabinet held a 2-day workshop and all sorts of other things. Anyway, I just got a kick out of that it was one page. I also found, interestingly enough, the agenda for our first meeting, which the meeting time was 85 minutes. However, followed by a 60-minute and then 45-minute executive session and study session. So, yes. Anyway, life was a little simpler when you first started in some ways.
I don't know, you didn't have to put those paper packets together.
No. In addition to streamlining communications, you are also responsible for the oversight of this beautiful building. We're in the construction of it. And I'm sure many of you can remember squeezing into our old boardroom. So, and having to travel from Longfellow to View Ridge to the admin building. So this building was a tremendous improvement. I also see this building as really supporting the strategic plan that you helped us craft. And that is that it's created a very welcoming environment. It's created space for us to have partnerships with other organizations. It brings staff together in one spot where there's great collaboration going. It's a wonderful community gathering place as well. And I think this building is remarkable in so many ways, and we're so fortunate that you are here to organize and oversee the building of it. I know when we hired you, we said we need a new admin building, and you made it happen. So this will remain as a visual testament to your vision for our district, and I do see it as one of your most notable accomplishments, and I thank you for it. So I will let other directors share thoughts. Director Mason? Sure.
Are we moving down the row? There isn't much that hasn't been said. It's hard to follow on the footsteps of last Friday's event, which was just so wonderful, and all the stories and memories that were shared. So I thought a little bit about personally sort of what I've observed, and I have to say, of maybe to me, all your qualities, I think you are probably one of the finest strategists I've ever met. And it's not just that you were able to put a strategic plan together, which is important, and all these little pieces, but your vision of where the district needed to go and what a monster that is to take and move it to a new place, but understanding all the little pieces that go into the bigger ship, I guess, as it were. And you have done that truly better than almost any leader I've ever experienced. And I just want to say thank you so much, because you have taken this district a tremendous distance in your 10 years here. And it's big shoes to fill. But I do, as a parent and as a director and as a community member, I appreciate everything that you've done. So thank you for sticking with us for 10 years, because as we know, longevity makes a big difference when you have all those different initiatives happening. And I know you haven't seen everything through that you wanted to see from the beginning, and you're trying to wrap up a few details as things come to an end here, but you certainly have a tremendous amount to be appreciative and proud of. So thank you very much.
Well, I can't say anything as eloquently as these two ladies in front of me
Yes, you
can.
can.
And so I had to put things down in words because I was afraid that I would get tongue-tied and not actually come together with some of the things. And, it's really something to be able to follow these eloquent ladies because they say it all. They say it all, but I put some words down. But one thing I do realize is that we have all benefited from just working and learning from you. From the strategic plan that you developed, the 8-step process, bringing something like that to Everett Public Schools, that's fantastic. Making the decision to have all-day kindergarten instead of half-day, and doing it before the state paid for it. Impressive. That's the focus in on making sure every kid from the day they walk into our schools, have a path set for them to when they leave. That's impressive. To the grad rates going so high. bringing in the orchestra program. That was one of the things that I just said, we're a high-performing school district. We have rigorous works. Science proves that you bring in programs like the orchestra, those kids who need that kind of challenge and that kind of engagement will succeed so much better. I'm glad you did that. That was one of the things that I was very much involved with, and I really wanted that to go forward. That was fantastic. Internships and apprenticeship programs. Said that from day one. We've got to have them, and we do. That's fantastic, and you've just been very innovative in that. And the diverse family engagement, bringing those families who felt that they didn't have a voice, giving them the opportunity and a forum to voice their concerns, to be a part of their children's experiences at school. That's very important, and thank you very much for doing that. Good opportunity for me as the Latino one to be able to speak Spanish and share that. We won't do that again, though, unless I get trained up on that quickly. But innovative work that has been passed on to everyone that has crossed your path, that's very important, because those practices will continue here at Everett Public Schools, and we're all the better for it and being able to cross paths with you. I know you've worked long and hard just for the education of kids and the professional development of those who have chosen the admirable profession of education. You certainly deserve some time to relax. And I hear you're going to relax for a whole darn year. Wonderful. Enjoy that time. But I know that you won't stay idle. At least Sue won't stay idle. And you hopefully whatever you choose will be in a more relaxed atmosphere than the day-to-day hustle and bustle of education of our children. But let me say once again how much you have done to give our district a reputation of being the place most desired to work and to grow in. And please accept my personal gratitude for all the effort that you've done here and the service you've done for our kids. And thank you. Wish you the best, and congratulations on your retirement.
Yay. Dr. Cohn, while through this journey, I've learned in more detail the standards, the academic standards of our district is what it is mostly and largely in part due to your leadership. I'm most thankful for the way you've led the district, and whether it's strategic. Simple but important things like brand management, standards, and then the partnerships that Director Andrews spoke about. I'm constantly amazed when how cool it is that our mayor comes to our events, and while it's a significance of your relationship with her, but the impact that the community sees out of that, I think, is much more telling and more impactful. And I am very thankful for your support, for your courtesy and your guidance as I was brought into the system, and you've sort of really helped me along, and I'm very, very thankful for that. I'll add one more other note, and I'll include Dr. Stewart in this. And please don't take this beyond what I'm trying to say, but I truly feel that the district has lost the brains and the heart of the district. So hopefully we'll find a new soul in Dr. Salzman's. So thank you.
Lastly, Tracy was sorry she couldn't be here. She said, she sent these words. Said, I would like to recognize Gary for his process improvement for our high graduation rates. He also ensured students of color and poverty have the same access to advanced programs. He's leaving a legacy of a strong district with exceptional staff and outstanding student outcomes. So with that, we have a small token of our appreciation. So maybe we'll gather down front and give that to you. And should we do a photo? Can we do a photo, please?
One more last photo. Wherever you are.
Whoa.
We needed one more.
Perhaps I need one more. Oh, that's right.
This is an achievement award we are giving you for your dedicated service to Everett Public Schools from your Everett Public Schools board of directors. Again, we are so grateful and accepted the positions you years ago and grateful for everything you have given to this district that will live on for decades to come.
So I think you have to get them tighter if they're actually.
Yeah, a little bit.
Does this work okay?
Perfect. Except for it won't take, sorry. There we go. And we do one more. I know.
Yeah, but like is
Okay,
good, you know,
wait, so,
you're.
Jared, could you come up, please? I want all the cabinet members up here before we move. All the cabinet members up here.
Yeah.
Get Jared the camera, please. All the cabinet members. Let's go, come on. Darlene? Let's go.
All you gotta do is hold that button down.
Everybody getting close rows? However you like to do it.
We need 2 rows, so those of us who can kneel need to kneel.
Yeah, just get in here and,
Kneel is getting.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
we'll help.
Yeah. You got a skirt on.
You got us all in here?
How do you see where they're all at in here?
You gotta look through the.
Oh, no, it's the tech guy.
This is old school.
I know. There it goes.
There.
All right.
Hey, thank you. All right, you guys can be.
And by the way, I think we can speak on behalf of all former board members.
That's right. Achievement award, survive.
You survived.
Survival award.
Merit badge.
So to celebrate.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, there is.
You're the one that's
Sounds like we need music, Jared.
Should
Should we just pause the meeting?
We have got to get a picture before,
Yeah.
That's cake.
we have to get a picture before they cut it.
You want a picture before we cut this?
Yes, I want a picture.
Oh, that's really nice. Guys, so do you want to do this after we eat?
Yeah.
That's from Friday.
You guys in recess?
No.
Yes, yes. This is the call call that we have in the board meeting.
Is this when you say you haven't changed your fits? Oh, is that can't put his face on there? That's why you know you made it.
He just had to do more training.
This is Friday.
The red tie.
We might as well have one of our food and then we don't bring it. You want a picture of me and my cake?
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
If I tip the cake too much, does it end up on the floor?
Yeah, don't.
Just a little bit, just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
I'm great.
Yeah, pick up the back.
There you go.
Not too high, not too high. Yeah. There you go.
Oh, that's awesome.
Send that to Sue.
You'll have to send those to Caroline.
Yeah.
It's like red tie watchers, you're gonna go berserk.
I know, the red tie. Yes, the red tie.
All right.
Okay.
That's good. Okay.
I know, there's so much sugar in that thing. Okay. My wife's gonna have to pluck me off the roof. All right, thank you. The ceiling. All right, thank you very much. I bet we're about ready for the superintendent's report, right, Jarrett? And I just want to give you a little preview of what we'll be doing over the next several months. And I want to remind all the cabinet members that I do have their cell phone numbers. And unless they change them, they're going to be getting little pictures on their texts during board meetings or at other times when they're supposed to be paying attention to somebody else. What do you think?
I feel against our new policy.
This actually is from a United Way event. That picture was taken, we had a really great relationship with the Coast Guard in Port Angeles, and we ended up out on a fast boat. And Sue absolutely hates this picture. Can you imagine why she hates this picture? Exactly. There you have it. Okay, I better move on before I get in really deep trouble. What do you think? All right, so we got a little bit of good news. We got some district news, a little bit of a construction update. We're going to give you a preview on school visits, and then maybe just a couple of moments of reflections, and I'm sure I can make my way through them. So this weekend was absolutely amazing, I think, for all of us. And I want to thank, actually for the last several weeks, I want to thank all of you, and I want to thank the cabinet members in particular. There is nothing that we are celebrating. Absolutely nothing we are celebrating that would not have occurred were it not for the strength, the brilliance, the commitment, the collaborative approach, and the experience and the will of the cabinet members in this district, not to mention other staff. But I want to just spend a couple of moments. As we look at these pictures from commencement, it was the process that we used, that led us to commit to, in our case, 100% graduation rates, which to me was a very large commitment at the time. And while we may only be at 96%, this whole notion of the debate was about whether or not it was a reasonable or realistic thing to do. And we've accomplished it with various groups over the last several years. And there is no question in my mind that it is achievable. And I think that's really significant. And I think with the quality and character of the people who you have sitting at these tables and around the back supporting us, and certainly throughout the district, I just absolutely am convinced, have become convinced that it's not just an aspirational goal, but it is an achievable level of performance that an organization ought to have and can have. So I'm very excited about what we experienced this weekend. Certainly the event at Peter's home a few weeks ago, where I think I saw more tears shed than I have seen for years and years and years, and they were absolutely delightful to watch and be a part of. And my wife is still talking about the experience with the cabinet members and their spouses and significant others, and it was just, it was just delightful. And Friday night, I was more than one could hope for, and Joyce's leadership and assembling all of that and everybody else's support to make that happen was absolutely heartwarming. My sister called me 3 times after that, right, to talk about what an incredible experience it was. Joyce was observing my parents in the process. And absolutely, what's on the slide is an example of the work we've done together. What we experienced Friday was, in our case, in my case, parents all of a sudden understanding after a long time what it is we've been doing all this time, right? And it was really fun to watch them be astonished. Astonishment's a wonderful thing, it can be a wonderful thing. So anyway, I wanted to show you these pictures that we took. Jackson High School had 514 graduates. on Saturday. Cascade had 393 graduates on Saturday. Everett High School had 298 graduates on Saturday. Last Thursday night, Sequoia had 64 graduates, and there are actually more. Those were just the number of kids who participated in the ceremonies. As of the 15th of June, we've seen 1,269 youngsters walk across the stage and receive the ceremonial recognition of their accomplishment of a diploma in our school district. This dedicated team of professionals that you all know about will increase that number between now and even the end of this month, and certainly by the time you hit your summer commencement in August. So I asked Jeannie Willard to do a little bit of arithmetic, and I've experienced since 2009 when I joined the district. And remember, I joined right July 1st, like most superintendents do, and immediately the next thing that I experienced in August is a summer commencement, right? So that was the first commencement after you received what was the first Friday report. And I did not count the Friday reports, but I probably could have done that. 50 commencements here in the district over 10 years, the 50th being Cascades at the end of the day on Saturday. And Jeannie was kind enough to let me know that since 2009, while I've been superintendent, 12,911 students have graduated. Wow. And that's a very nice body of work in a district of 20,000 students. 18,500 when I joined the district. So I have to tell you, we've made that a priority in the district, and we've talked about it, and we put it out in front of everybody. And your work doing that, your work and your predecessors' work and these folks' work, designing and redesigning and figuring out the next few changes to make to get the next several students, really, really critical in that work. Pam, you mentioned the orchestra, and I think it's, for me, a very emotional accomplishment. I can remember my grandfather saying, when he would introduce me to classical music, that one of the most important things about learning to play instruments and having music in the home is that used to be, back in, I don't know how far back, only for royalty and only for the aristocracy, and the rest of us didn't get to have music, and didn't get to have music in our homes, and didn't get to listen to performances. And I was sitting there listening on Friday night to those kids play and thinking, this is exactly what Grandpa had in mind. Exactly. So I wanted to show you a picture of Heatherwood Middle School Orchestra performing a blacklight concert. And Larry tells us that they attach glow tape to their bows, and they use black lights instead of stage lights, and you get an incredible light show. And about 100 musicians performed, including 8th graders who were the first ever 6th grade Heatherwood Orchestra musicians. And they wanted to ask me to particularly thank Music for Life Everett for the instruments that they've been able to put into the hands of students who couldn't otherwise afford a beautiful musical instrument that you absolutely need to make this kind of music. So some would have never learned to play if we hadn't provided that opportunity. And I want to thank David Endicott and our parent group and the Rotaries and everyone else who's contributed to Music for Life. The kids just benefit so tremendously. And there's actually a little bit more music information in tonight's report. At the final concert, Gateway Choir students brought a message of togetherness to their audience as they sang in this particular photo, We Are One. And as the song began, the students encircled the audience with a paper chain made up of over 1,500 links that they wrote as part of the SMILE campaign. Throughout the year, the students focused on helping each other and building up one another with those words making those paper chains. I'm going to give you a little bit more music here in a minute, but before I do, I wanted you to know that on May 24th, Garfield Elementary School celebrated the Festival of Colors in partnership with the Imagine Children's Museum. We've got some lovely pictures of here with kids and adults enjoying this festival and enjoying food and dancing and the arts and crafts. I think it's important that we do this as part of the Superintendent's Report so that as we focus on very high priority items and a lot of key performance indicators, and you see a lot of data, that you don't forget that we've not forgotten that this is about a full experience for kids. And there's always a face behind those numbers. There is always a face behind those numbers, and I want to make sure that in my last report to you, you get to see a bunch of those faces. So it's always an exciting day when our students head to the Lively Environmental Center. You know, the center was a gift to the district some time ago, and it came with covenants that essentially said, for as long as it's used in this fashion, you may keep this property and be a custodian of it. And if you choose to do something different, you find someone else to be the custodian of the property so that it can continue in this particular use. This happens to be Madison Elementary students who participated in the annual release of salmon fry. Now, not fried salmon, but itty bitty salmon, which are called fry, they release out into the stream, right? And this is something that's been going on at Lively for some time. And I thought you would like to see that. June 13, Whittier Elementary School students enjoyed Culture Night, where students got to dance. They got to eat delicious food, and my notes here say that it was Mexican food. And I don't know if there were other types of food. That's what the notes say. And and students got to dress in their cultural attire. There was time for families to view projects created by students celebrating their cultures, plural, which is why I'm not sure it was just celebration of one culture. So the Whittier Culture Night was a smashing success, and you can see that these students have done an absolutely lovely job representing the histories that they brought into the district and into our lives. This next photo I took from the balcony where I snuck up during the concert, the all-district strings concert. I actually took several photos. This one happens to be of the final number, where you actually have two conductors and kids from multiple schools spread across the stage and spilling out into the lower part of the audience area and playing I think 215 instruments, because I'm told there were 215 youngsters who participated in this. I have to tell you, this was a beauty to behold. It was fabulous. The music was wonderful, and I'm just very grateful that people like Peter Scott and Joyce Stewart and the principals of the schools in the South End and now the North End got together and moved forward to get this done. And we have this wonderful opportunity for so many kids in our district. 4 years ago, this didn't exist. This is what happens when the board makes a commitment, whether it's your request, my request, a community request, makes a commitment and says follow it through and get it done. And I'm very, very proud of that. Okay, fine. Here's another picture. This is the final number, I think, of the Jackson High School Orchestra concert. David Peters was there. Director Lassane was there. I was there to observe this. The audience was full of parents and family and friends, and it was absolutely wonderful to see this and to see the orchestra kids with the band kids and the choir kids at commencement. That was really superb. So I wanted you to see a couple of quick pictures. Now, you know, often we have events for kids where they're rewarded for things that we're working on in schools, whether it's reading or attendance or things of that nature. This happens to be a picture at Jefferson Elementary School, where the class with the least amount, remember you saw a picture of me eating ice cream with kids? It was ice cream cone with a superintendent kind of thing. This was the least amount of tardies. By June 1, they earned a lunch with Everett Mayor Cassie Franklin. So on the 12th of this month, the mayor joined Mrs. Clark's extended resource class and Mrs. Graham's kindergarten class to celebrate their accomplishment. And we wanted you to see those really beautiful pictures of the mayor with kids. And we wanted you to know also that some of our elementary students will be attending, well, you know this, they'll be attending different schools next year, but what we wanted you to know was that last week, Silver First fifth grade students did a great job of giving tours to their new incoming families from Penny Creek. And last month, Mill Creek Elementary welcomed their new school families with an ice cream social. Forest View is having an open house where their fifth grade students will be giving tours. This is an example of leadership at the principal level, leadership at the district level, focusing on how we make sure that there's a welcoming environment when we know students and families are going through a bit of stress with moving from one school to another when we change boundaries. They are never stress-free, and the work that the team has done, the thoughtfulness of preparing for this, the outreach, the communications is all very, very important to kids feeling incredibly welcome at those schools and parents feeling that way too. Hawthorne and Tambar Creek Elementaries are joining Whittier in Jumping into the uniform business next year, donors have committed over $20,000 to help low-income families afford the uniforms. Uniforms are basically a pair of pants, a polo shirt, and a school sweatshirt, and it runs around $25. Uniforms help increase student self-esteem while instilling school pride. They eliminate distractions, and most importantly, they bridge that socioeconomic gap among students. It eliminates, frankly, a source of intimidation, harassment, bullying, the things that get between kids rather than bring kids together. So we're very excited about those schools determining to move forward with those uniforms. Free summer meals for kids begin on July 1st. 15 sites are open. Any child 1 to 18 years of age can drop in for a free meal. You can find out a lot of information on the website, food nutrition pages about the meals. North Middle School, last meeting I gave you an update on Tambark, I believe. North is moving along. Exterior siding, painting's approximately 80% done. Interior finishes are well underway. Lights are being placed, polishing concrete floors. Complete in the STEM lab, art spaces, science spaces, kitchen equipment's being installed, be complete by the end of the week. The big rooftop chiller has been placed, completing the installation of the large HVAC units for our new building, and new furniture and equipment is scheduled for delivery this summer. I think that picture is really a fun picture to see, and I know you all had opportunities, and I think all of you took advantage of the opportunities to tour schools, and I think as that school shapes up, I think people are getting the same feeling they got when we built this place. The openness, the flexibility, the collaborative space is really wonderful. Normally we give you my school visits the month following the month. Well, there isn't going to be a month following this month for me, so I'm giving you the school visits now. Madison, Monroe, Penny Creek, Eisenhower, 3 high schools, and certainly we would probably have to count Sequoia in there, but even though it occurred at Everett High School, I'm not sure which one we should count, so we'll have to debate that and get back to you. And then I'll be at a couple of schools between now and the end of the next couple of weeks. You know, you all have kept me a bit busy over the last 10 years, you and your predecessors, and I just wanted to give you a couple of quick stats that I thought you might find fun. In addition to the 90 awards that our schools in the district earned over the past decade, during our time together, including today, we've held 170 regular school board meetings and 284 special school board meetings. During 9 of the past 10 years, because we didn't count them my first year, wish I had thought of it, but I didn't until the second year, we've counted 1,709 school visits and 2,288 individual meetings with community members across the course of my time here. I want to tell you that from my perspective, the health of the board superintendent team has been excellent and has been nurtured by each and every one of us over the past several years. And I think you mentioned it earlier, and I want to reinforce, the research shows that when you've got a good school district board superintendent team and you've got stability and consistency and coherence over time, schools perform better, students have a better experience, and there just isn't anything better than a good start in life with a good education and an environment like we have here in Everett Public Schools. So from my perspective, you've created an example of the rule represented by the research on stable leadership producing exceptional results, and I mean the team, and that includes a cabinet in terms of the body of leadership in a district that allows the work to be done and to focus on priorities and to have the kind of an environment in schools and the quality of leadership and the quality of instruction that we have and the experiences that we have here for our students in Everett Public Schools. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you, and thank you cabinet members. And although community members don't often come to board meetings unless they're unhappy with something we've done, I would like to just take the moment to say thank you to the community that supported these schools. I know for a lot more time than I've been here, but the experience that I've had over 10 years has been absolutely stellar, and frankly, I could not ask for a better group of people to work with, a finer place to work, and a more supportive community than that in which the Everett Public Schools operates. So thank you. That's the Superintendent's Report for the 18th of June.
Thank you, Dr. Cohn. It was a very fitting final report. feel like I need a tissue, actually. It was heartwarming, yeah.
That's why we keep them here.
So many things in your report are just absolutely heartwarming to see the music, the cultural nights, just all the graduations, so much focus. It truly brings to light our focus on each
I'm sorry,
student.
you know what I did? I switched over before you got to the last slide. Can you flip back to me real quick? So I was thanking you, right? And I wanted you to know that soon I will be thinking of you.
Wait, where is that?
Well, this happens to be Camelback, but I just wanted you, those are Sue's feet and mine. And we just wanted you to know that when you have your next board meeting, we'll be thinking of you.
I would say that's well-deserved, and send us a photo while you're there, please. Thank you very much. Yes, that's great. Okay.
We won't reciprocate with our feet on these tables. We won't be sending you pictures of that.
Start sending him photos
I can
of your feet
guarantee
up on
you
the,
that, right?
the table.
No, we wouldn't do that.
All right, we will move on to section 10.0, strategic progress monitoring. We will hear an end of year progress report of our strategic plan.
Well, thank you very much. I have the role of serving as quarterback this evening in Mike Gunn's historic place. He's out of town this week, so I have the opportunity to showcase my colleagues' work as well in the end of the year progress report and quarterback those steps along the way here. Here's the connection to why we do what we do and why we report on this progress twice annually. As the board defined the ultimate outcomes or results, those ends that we've talked about within the strategic plan, and monitored the how or the means. You're going to hear a lot about those means to ultimately leverage to get the results that we want to achieve that are outlined in those strategic goals and key performance outcomes. This is certainly a joint effort. Many of my teammates will be sharing stories and highlights of the work within each of the 5 strategic priorities. This is one of our favorite slides. We've used it quite often in multiple venues. This is illustrating that cascade alignment of goals and actions based on the strategic plan, or that North Star that was put into place close to 10 years ago, leading to coherent and connected action planning, both at the organizational level through the AOP, the school level through the school improvement plans, and then those department action plans. So that cascading alignment of goals is incredibly important. And then together we monitor the key performance indicators as to the extent to which we are close, or the proximity to those ultimate key performance outcomes that you monitor over time and set the direction for. So with that said, I'm going to hand it off to teaching and learning first, and we'll walk through the 5 priorities.
Thank you, Dr. Scott. So the assistant superintendents and I are excited to share updated work that we had not shared in the mid-year report. So we're just going to go through work that we believe is new, but also work that we need to continue to strengthen. So as you can see in the first bullet, it says sharing student success strategies during May principals meeting. So as you know, we've had changes with our high school requirements. You heard that from Jeannie, you hear a little bit more from Catherine too. And also changes with middle school offerings. So we've made sure that every spring our high school principals are meeting with the middle school principals and the assistants and some of the counselors to make sure that we are handing off kids in a very formal way and ensuring that that happens. So because of those changes, that brings a lot of anxieties, not just with students, but also with their parents. It's just hard to follow the many changes related to assessments and different credits, and also the different offerings that we have at different levels. So what we did this year is just not assume that our educators, and especially our principals, understand all the strategies to deal with all these anxieties. So we hosted what's called Angst. It's a film about anxiety awareness. And we showed that this spring, and we are hoping that also all of our principals use that with our teachers during their lid days in August. In addition to that, we are going to have this on a link this summer. We are moving from professional development, where we invite parents here from 4 to 6 some evening, and then or 6 to 7 or 7 to 8 to putting several links on our website this summer that we hope that all parents will sometime throughout the summer, maybe when they're at their kids' soccer games or getting their oil change in their car or something, take their cell phone and click on that link, and they just maybe select one or two of the links throughout the summer, and we're hoping one of them that they all select is Angst, because it is an absolutely amazing film that not just educators, but also will help parents. The second one, you saw in the superintendent's report tonight, the importance of just expanding opportunities for kids to be connected to our schools, and we are very proud of the way that we continue to do that. And we just wanted to highlight, Dr. Cohn did that, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but we really believe in that concept that every student should have a T-shirt, meaning that they all should belong to some community in our school. They want to be connected, they want to belong, and you saw tonight and Friday, hopefully, just that vision, how that vision has become alive. But some of the other areas that we have strengthened as far as activities are Black student unions, Girls on the Run, you saw that in the last superintendent's report, and then just our National Honor Societies. We've added that in a couple of our middle schools. There's an example in the right-hand corner of a young middle school girl who went and helped on Madison one week, just trying to get her National Honor Society hours. And again, we are proud of the way we just keep looking at this and thinking, how can we get better? This is an area, again, we talk about work that we got to keep doing, keep looking at, and keep adding clubs. And many times the students bring the clubs to us. And then this is something new, the Becca petition. So you can see here, when we made this slide, we said that we filed 576. Well, there was a due date, it was 5/31. At that point, we filed 648 what's called state petitions, not just petitions. And as of today, a total of 731 state petitions have been filed with the courts. Now, what's different? Before, we used to file a petition and it lasted 1 year. And 2 years ago, the OSPI made a decision that let's call them state petitions, meaning you can file them throughout the year, but we're going to give you an additional year to work with the families in the hopes that they don't ever end up in court. So that's where you hear about the community truancy boards. And so we also get $130 for each petition. And that's helpful because that helps reimburse districts for getting the support that we need to make sure that we file these. But this, again, as you can see, this is just another level of heightened awareness on attendance and a heightened attendance intervention that we're doing. And you can just see the difference at the different levels of elementary, middle, and high school. So again, what's new for you here is just the state petitions and the way that we're working, not just 1 year, but 2 years to ensure that kids are connected to schools and attending our schools. And then Dr. Lancaster is going to talk to you about more at the building level and what we're doing. But this is work that I'm telling you, this is ongoing work that we just can't let up on, because we know that when students attend our schools consistently, they will graduate on time consistently too. So with that, Dr. Lancaster, I'm going to let you talk about the ways that we are celebrating improved student attendance.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart. And she talked about the Becca petitions as that's being one way of enforcing attendance, but celebrations are also a big part of that. So you saw the picture of Dr. Cohn with the ice cream cone celebration, the lunch with the mayor they already talked about. This picture here shows a class that had 53 days of perfect attendance for this, and they were so proud. But even certificates for our high school students, you've heard before Kelly Shepard talk about how students are motivated to earn those certificates. So what you can note from this is our attendance efforts have really been a call to action for our staff. They have exhausted all strategies to try to get students engaged and excited about being at school on time and present every single day. So next, we have implemented this year individualized action plans for our Tier 4 students. You've heard a little bit about that, but those are the students that have some reason that they cannot be on campus, a significant reason, something that's happened. So we do lots of re-engagement planning. We do tutoring both on and off site. But the really exciting piece of this is the increasing number of Graduation Alliance graduates. As we've gotten more students into that system, we have 26 students who have graduated so far during the 18-19 school year, with more to come, we believe, over the summer. 44 of those students are within 1 year of graduation, and they've maintained a monthly of enrollment about 110 students. So even if our students are not attending our school systems actively, we're not giving up on them. We're helping them with Graduation Alliance, and that is really starting to show some great dividends for us. And then finally, instructionally, we utilize our resources to provide differentiated instruction for students. So our LAP, federal funds that we have, pay for some paraeducators that allow for smaller group instruction, just-in-time interventions for students, so that if you're struggling, you're not left in the big classroom of 30 students to struggle. You have some pull-out individualized time that is flexible grouping that students can move into and out of quickly so they can address those needs in real time. And next, Mr. Fleckenstein is going to talk about, speak to professional development.
Well, high-performing districts always find a way to meet the needs of their employees to help them grow and to better serve students. And like Dr. Stewart said, just like our kids, teachers also want to feel connected in a sense of belonging to their colleagues when they're learning. And this year, we've really provided those resources to get teachers out amongst and with their peers to learn from one another at the high level of professional development and really gleaning the best of the best here in our district to elevate everybody's performance. And so learning walks have occurred throughout the year where there's a comfort level now within the district to ask for these opportunities, whereas before it probably felt like, oh, I don't want to ask to go see somebody else's classroom. That means I'm deficient in something. No longer the culture now. Now it's great to go out with your colleagues and learn together in a safe environment. And the example of a letter here from View Ridge Elementary's kindergarten team, just thanking Dr. Stewart for the opportunity to go learn from their peers. Another hallmark of high-performing districts is the continuous improvement process where we solicit feedback on the professional development from the people who attend it and what their needs are moving forward to help them continue to improve. And here you can see a sample of the professional development survey that went out here in May to each of those bargaining groups that you see listed on the slide, soliciting their input about what their needs are for next year so we can continue to support each of our employees in Everett Public Schools. And finally, our work in PBIS continues. We're just finishing up our second year of PBIS work in the schools. And this summer, we have professional development happening next week to kick off the third year of PBIS with sound support coaches. Teams from each school will be coming to the district office, working with their colleagues to prepare for implementation of Tier 2 PBIS intervention strategies. And some of our teams are at that implementation stage of Tier 2, not just the beginning learning of that. So each of our schools getting what they need to continue to create those support systems in a multi-tiered framework for student behavior and academics. Now I'd like to have Mr. Beckley.
So we are excited to share some information and updates with you on the implementation of our learning management system, our portal that right now is just high school data. That's where we have started. Last year was by invitation, sort of early adopters, and really you can see a snapshot here of the year of the tremendous growth over the course of last year to this year. You'll see, I'll explain this briefly just so you can understand the different columns and what they mean. So if you look under courses, the number of courses developed in last year, which is the darker color, the blue, 27-18, that was primarily our LMS team building and publishing those courses to kind of get the ball started. But this year, those courses, so you see it dips a little bit, but those courses are all courses published by teachers. So we're there to work alongside them, but those are ones that it's starting, you start to see it take off. So you see the number of teachers using Canvas has increased. The number of students has increased as well. The number of resources, the difference between resources and documents. Resources, the number of times students accessed resources in Canvas. So whether it's a discussion board or video maybe that a teacher has put in the course for them to access, or Khan Academy, for example, it would be considered a resource. So every time a student accessed that, it would show up in that data. So you can see just a tremendous amount more being placed in Canvas for students to access. Documents are actual files that students are uploading. So again, you can see a tremendous increase in there. So we're excited about this, and it will continue to increase. We're now beginning to reach out and include the middle schools in that, and excited to continue to update the board on the use of Canvas across the system. We'll have more detailed information about Canvas when we're with you at the next board meeting to give our integrated tech plan update. Here's a snapshot too of the portals, the district Canvas curriculum portal, what it looks like, the shell, the sort of that landing page. And so far to date, we have our math, our ELA, and our social studies portal already up and published, and the science and the world language and the special education pages are currently in production. So we're excited we'll continue to update you on that. Another focus for our department has been, and we've talked to you about the idea of our focus on equity and access continuing to be part of our strategic priority in this area, and that middle school solution, and we are excited to share the middle school solution. We can't use the Sprint program like we did for high school, so this is the internet access for students at home now that the middle school students are getting their devices, and so we are going to use called the T-Mobile Empower Ed program. And so there is some cost to this program, but it is a fee that the district will we will cover that for students that are eligible. We will have the same number of hotspots that we had at high school for qualifying families to make sure everybody has internet access at home, and it will be unlimited data for that amount of money, and we feel essentially the way it's set up is it's a 2-year program, and the first year is sort of covered by the program. Good coverage area, and it's got great reviews. So we're excited to be able to offer that to our middle school students. And lastly, we like customer service is a big focus for our department for internal and external users. We continue to track this. We've shared this with you in the past, but it's been a while since we'd updated. This is up through April, and you can see we continue to track and monitor the fact that we are closing, in this case, closing more than we're opening, but in a lot of cases, this is catching up from summer work. So we appreciate the extra staffing that the board has supported in that, and you can see the evidence of the work in action. I will now turn it over to Ms. Reeves.
One of the things we wanted to focus on this year was really trying to get ahead of the story and not just always have reactive media. And so you can see our earned media this year is way up. Actually, as of last week, it was $1.6 million worth of earned media. We also tracked our mobile app downloads, and the priority for that is because anything accessed in the mobile app can be accessed in any language. So we really want to make sure to promote that. We have a 24% increase so far this year. We've had 13 different community presentations this spring. So those mainly were led by cabinet members with different community organizations. And then another focus has really been to try to increase our engagement. So through the different board groups for the bond and for the high school growth mitigation. We had lots of community engagement there, but also the process of finding the new superintendent had thousands of people engaged in the process. So want to continue that and make sure that the community has a say in the things that we're doing. And I think now, who is it? Ms. Kovacs.
Thank you, Kathy. I have a little frog in my throat, so bear with me. As part of the ongoing equity work toward 100% graduation rates, we again hosted family conversations with the African and African American, Native American, Russian, and Ukrainian families to provide an update on our progress over the past few years, as well as seek additional feedback on how we can continue to support their students and the families. These events were well received. Over almost 80 participants attended the African and African American event, which was double that of the previous years. So, a lot of interest. With the Native American, while the turnout was small, the conversation was rich in hearing what their interests are and how we can support their students. And then we had about 30 parents with the Russian-Ukrainian family conversation, and each had unique questions and feedback. It was a learning opportunity for me to be with these different groups because each one has unique needs and interests in how we can support them. So the overall feedback was positive. I think now, moving into next year, we'll look at different ways in how we can engage them. We've received feedback now twice, so we will now move into supporting them in the ways they've asked us to do so. As part of our diversity recruitment efforts, we did go out of state, and the individual campuses we visited were in Houston and Dallas, Texas, and Raleigh, North Carolina. And we targeted those areas because of their diverse student population, specifically historically black colleges and universities and Hispanic serving institutions. The visits were good, so we built the relationships. Recruiters and deans have, in different ways, the different colleges have ways in which they want to partner with us. But all in all, they would like to, the two key areas that we talked about were to have the recruiters come and talk to our students, specifically those of color, to talk about what the opportunities are at their colleges and universities, scholarships, those types of things. So, and the notion to host a recruitment effort here as opposed to going to the different high schools. And then more focused on student teachers coming to our district to be placed to do their practicums. That will be a longer and larger long-range goal, but they are very much interested in partnering with us. So we're currently planning on hosting just a visit for them to come see our schools, visit with some of our leaders, and to continue engaging in that conversation. With that, I'm going to have Darcy come up and talk about Townbar Creek.
Thank you. So Townbar Creek is on schedule to open in September of 2019. Interior finishes, exterior finishes are underway. Elevator is currently going in, should be complete by the end of the week. We've got carpet and floor tile going in. Cabinetry, the majority of the cabinetry is installed. You'll also see, if you were to drive by, irrigation and landscaping going on the exterior of the building. Parking lots are being paved. And there is one final connection, and that is Puget Sound Energy's gas connection to the building, which will occur over the next week or two. So we're in good shape to open in September. North Middle School, as you heard, Dr. Cohn gave you an update on North just a few minutes ago. The new building is on schedule to open in September. They're working on the exterior of the building, interior finishes. That site is being, thank you, Jeff, is being swamped right now with workers. If you drive by, you'll see that the eastern half of the fields are underway as well. So new synthetic fields going in there. The site work and building modernization will take another 6 to 8 months to complete, and that'll include the removal, abatement and demolition of B building, and then building a new parking lot there, and then moving portables off and completing the synthetic turf field. Woodside Elementary, just tonight you awarded the bid to Edifice GC Incorporated for this project. Bids were received on May 30th. We had 4 bidders that bid this project. Construction will begin in July and go through to April of 2021. The initial phase of construction will include the new about 9,000 square foot building, which will house the admin and library. And then it'll connect with A building, which is in the southeast corner of the site, and so the new building and building A will be the first phases of the project, and then the project will continue in phases to building B, C, and D, and then we'll finish up with the remaining site work. Safety and security. So last year we completed new security entry vestibules at Cedarwood, Mill Creek, Silver Firs, and Penny Creek, along with video intercom and access controls at those schools and 18 others. Tambart Creek and North Middle School will follow along this year. And in this summer, work is underway to install interior security doors at Jackson High, Emerson, Garfield, Hawthorne, Jefferson, Lowell, Silver Lake, and Whittier Elementaries. And we're going to install some fencing as well on a few projects, Emerson, Lowell, and Madison. Two other notable pieces of work, bodies of work that were completed this year, the high school boundary revisions, which I think you're all aware of. And just a week and a day ago, we had our final capital bond planning committee meeting, which completed that body of work. And our consultant is currently writing that report. So stay tuned for that. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Moore.
Thank you very much. This is redundant, but it's always joyful to have a redundant ability to say that we have exceptional bond ratings, no audit findings for many, many years, and we continue to commit to a higher level of fiscal reporting, and we intend to continue this trend well into the future. We also are noted within those bond rating analysis about strong fiscal stewardship. We talked a little bit on Friday night at the event about that meaning more than just the dollars and cents. But when it comes down to the dollars and cents, by doing this, we always acknowledge that while today seems very bright and opportunities may present themselves, long-term commitments are undermined by the state fiscal structural deficit of the regionalization phasing out, and we continue to have to anticipate a labor market that seems to be more and more persistent on salaries that aren't currently in this projection. So we have a lot of work to do with our groups to settle the 4 openings this year and another bargaining group next year. And by engaging our community and the partnerships we have with them, we will continue to see success moving forward. And with that, I will introduce Dr. Riley Black.
Dear me. I will round out today's presentation by addressing strategic goal number 5, strategic relationships. First, I'll address the advancements in early learning. We continue to expand the Everett Ready program, which is funded by the Everett Public Schools Foundation. The Everett Ready program is designed to provide a smooth transition to kindergarten for students with little or no preschool experience and/or who qualify for free and reduced lunch, and/or students who speak a home language other than English. This year, Everett Ready expanded to serve 247 students at 14 elementary schools, an expansion of 12 schools in just 2 years. The Play and Learn program involves children from birth to age 5 and their parents. This program is partnered with the Everett Public Library and the City of Mill Creek. The program provides developmentally appropriate training for caregivers where kids play and learn, and adult caregivers and consultants can observe and learn and reinforce best practices. Statewide, over 10% of the students participating in Play and Learn live in the Everett Public Schools boundaries, when we make up only 1.8% of the total population statewide for this targeted age group. ECAP state-funded preschool programs expanded from 280 students to 320 students this year. We continue to lead preschool to grade 3 professional learning across multiple agencies. Examples include STEM demonstration lessons and parent outreach, particularly in mathematics, socially emotional learning, kids that have historically been the lowest proficiency rates for incoming kindergartners on the WA Kids assessments. And finally, the United Way Improving Schools Attendance Collaborative. This work includes 22 partners, including all of the shelters in our district's boundaries. The collaborative coordinates and supports resources for homeless students and families in order to improve and sustain consistent school attendance. This slide overviews our relationships in support of college and life readiness. College application days were hosted by Everett Community College, WSU Everett, and UW-Bothell, and purposed to assist students and families in navigating the organization's admissions and financial aid processes. Our partnership with Everett Community College has led to more frequent admissions and financial aid sessions than existed several years ago. This year's high school and beyond events, hosted at each comprehensive high school, included upwards of 100 partners, with the most higher education representation than ever. Partnership support is key for many students in completing FAFSA, and completion rates are monitored as a key performance indicator. FAFSA completion is important for many students in addressing financial barriers to entering post-secondary programs. District leadership is represented on the Children's Wellness Commission, an interagency group in the county dedicated to improving the quality of life of young people and families, particularly in addressing and improving mental health supports. This spring, Everett Middle School was the host site for the Children's Wellness Commission's 4th Annual Youth and Family Wellness Fair. The event featured entertainment, community resources, and workshops promoting mental health and wellness. And finally, in consultation through partnership with the Snohomish County Human Services, Everett and Cascade High Schools, Evergreen and North Middle Schools, and Jefferson Elementary Schools are participating in trauma-informed practices. Career pathways would not be possible without strategic relationship. At next week's board study session, we'll go into more depth with these career pathways, but some highlights include the following. Next school year, the Aerospace and Advanced Manufacturing Career Pathways, hosted at Cascade High School, will launch a 3-credit Skills Center course utilizing the Core Plus Aerospace curriculum. The Boeing Company has supported not only the development of these materials, but also the training for teachers and the funds to purchase equipment. This pathway also includes partnership with the Aerospace Joint Apprenticeship Committee, or AJAC, and we learned just last week that 15 students from our district, representing our 3 comprehensive high schools, comprise the spring 2019 Youth Apprenticeship Cohort. This is a growth of 7 students from last year, our initial year in offering the youth apprenticeship opportunity. And I'm excited to share that about a month ago, we learned that a proposal we wrote to the National Science Foundation in partnership with Everett Community College was funded. This grant will support the recruitment and retention of more young women into aerospace manufacturing career pathways. The Education Careers Pathway has solid support from our Diversifying Pathways Collaborative, comprised of UW-Bothell, Everett Community College, and Marysville School District. Next year, the Introduction to Education course and the Educator Rising Career and Technical Student Organization will expand from Cascade High School to also be offered at Jackson and Everett High Schools. And plans for launching the Medical and Health Careers Pathway is well underway. We currently are working with a design team comprised of staff from WSU Everett, UW-Bothell, Everett Community College, Kaiser Permanente, and Providence. These partners have helped us conceive the design of the modernization of Everett High School's vocational building, and they are helping us with course design. Next year, we will launch the program with a 1-credit course entitled Medical Terminology, a course that articulates with both Everett and Edmonds community colleges. Last I checked, 72 students had registered for this course. We expect to launch a 3-credit Skills Center course in the fall of 2020. I should also note that Everett Community College, Kaiser Permanente, Providence are all hosting summer interns as part of the medical and health careers portion of Everett Career Link, our internship program. And speaking of internships, our final slide, I'm excited to share with you that Everett Career Link, our partnership with the city of Everett, I'm excited to share with you about Everett Career Link, our partnership with the city of Everett in support of summer internships. Together, our district and the city are supporting the pilot of an intermediary, a consultant purposed to support the recruitment and preparation of employers to host student internships. We had an established goal of recruiting 50 placements for summer internship. At my last count, we have recruited 23 organizations who have offered 44 locations or work sites, providing 106 internship placement opportunities. You may recognize the image on this slide as the map of the school district, albeit cut in half. It currently is hung on the wall in my office. The colored dots represent the internship placement opportunities, and the colored sticky notes represent individual students. We initially matched 90 students with employers, and at my last count, after our worksite learning coordinators have been able to sit down and work with each student, we're down to 65 matches. And we'll talk a little bit more about that next week, but as students realize that there's summer vacation in their families' plans, I think we're doing pretty well. I do look forward, however, to next week's study session where we can go into more detail about these numbers and these placements. And with that, I think Dr. Scott will facilitate discussion.
So we are open for discussion, comments, and/or questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. Very thorough presentation, lots of amazing work happening. Directors, do you have questions or comments?
What's Graduation Alliance? That's something new.
Guys, pull your mics down so that the recording system can pick you up. And
Graduation Alliance is an OSPI-approved re-engagement program for students who are between 16 and 21 who, I don't like using the word dropout. I say students who have left our schools and have not graduated. So a number of school districts have what's called a 1418 program. They get our diploma, but it's an online program that students access in the community with and they provide advocates, devices for kids.
if I might give you just a teeny bit of background, a while back the state realized that youngsters were leaving school and they weren't coming back, and they wanted to incentivize districts to get out there, find them, and pull them back in and get them graduated. So they created programs where you could do that, pull them back in, and because you already counted them as a non-graduate, they wouldn't count against you when you pulled them back in if they didn't complete. So that was a 1418 structure, and we used that to go out and scoop back kids who left us and get them graduated. It's starting to really catch fire, which is really nice.
And all of that is online? All the Graduation Alliance work?
Yes, it's online, but it's face-to-face mentors. They get a lot of support. Many of them meet with them twice a week. And Jeannie Willard facilitates all that. And we check on the students to make sure that they are being successful, and we provide them any support that we can at our end too, but we monitor them. And now we're seeing, as you saw tonight, how many are benefiting from that online program.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Lassane?
Yes, I have a question for Brian. On the middle school student Wi-Fi hotspot program,
yes,
it's going to be a 2-year program, but my question for you is, it says there's no Title I or free and reduced lunch requirement. The students just have to apply and say they need?
Yep, exactly. So with Sprint, there was some language and some requirement restrictions around that. We can set the parameters ourselves.
Right.
And essentially, if you need internet access at home, we will help you do that.
Okay, and they are not charged the $200
Right.
if they cannot. How many students have come forward to date, just off the top of your head, that have requested that type of ability?
Well, at high school, it's right almost exactly 300. And so we are going to start with that many at the middle school.
At the middle school with an estimate?
Yeah, that's what we're estimating. We could always get more if needed. And we're getting ready to put out a summer letter letting middle school families know. We so far have a one-pager. We've provided the middle school principals to get them thinking about it, and then we'll send a letter home over the summer with the application information for middle schools. And if we need to get more, we will, but we'll start with 300.
And usually there are some families out there that have kids in both high school and middle school. Can they still, anyone that's in the house that has a hotspot there, can access it,
Right.
correct?
Mhm.
So if their older brother or sister had one from Sprint, they can still access?
They could use that one, exactly. It could work for the whole family.
It could work for the whole family?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there's no limitations on how many devices can access that particular hotspot?
The limitation is more of the data plan associated with it, but Sprint, even when the students get to their maximum, they don't shut it off. They just draw it down a little bit. They might slow it down. So if we find there's too many devices on the home, we could supplement it with a T-Mobile, which has an unlimited plan.
Unlimited amount.
So,
Very well,
yep.
thank you.
Ensuring access, you bet.
Thank you.
Dr. Mesa?
Thank you. Well, I feel like I need to channel former Director Ted Wenta tonight, because I feel like the things that he would do is, first of all, he would praise everyone for the work that's being done. And I think this presentation is just really scratching the surface in terms of the accomplishments and the programs that are in place and moving forward. But he would also say, what was the thing we didn't get to? Where was there a shortcoming, or what was an initiative that we just didn't quite have the time or the funding to do right? Is there anything that we should think about or look to better support, maybe, for example, going forward next year? Hard when everyone has. I know, sorry.
I think I'm looking at one area in the life readiness piece on slide 29 that is not so much a false start, and we certainly wouldn't regret our entering into an agreement with the Snohomish County Human Services. They've been fantastic. I think, though, that we have some room to grow with the coherence making, sense making among our staff in terms of the practices that trauma-informed practices. To what extent are they similar and different to positive behavior interventions and supports practices? We've, through Dr. Stewart's leadership, have poured in a lot of structures. You heard about them taking root in the saucers. And so it's like anything, too much of a good thing we have to monitor as well. And so in a big complex system like ours, when you're introducing multiple terminology, we have to pay attention to that, make sure that we're not confusing anybody unnecessarily, and streamline some things. And this is one case example of probably 2 or 3 other things that we're monitoring closely to make sure that there aren't too many cooks in the kitchens and that we're complementing with programs rather than confusing or being redundant. So it's a land of opportunity, not necessarily a regret.
That makes sense, though, because it's definitely a growing area of work in the district, and we're pulling in a lot of partners, and they all provide slightly different services, and they probably label things slightly differently, and determining where the overlaps are and where the gaps are is probably an enormous task. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Another area I touched on a little bit tonight is we have a professional development council, and there's probably close to 50 people on it. And one area we haven't done real well in the last 3 years, and we've touched on it, but really is parent professional development, meaning being very intentional about that. And we've just finally this spring talked about that unless parents will come if their kids are performing, or if we call them up and invite them. Like the Jeff UTEC, when you see parents here with their families, most of them have been personally called by an assistant principal. So that's why we talked about, let's do this in a different way. Let's put these links that we want every parent in our district, not a ton of them, but maybe what are 5 areas that we want parents to look at this summer and see if maybe we get how many, working with Kathy's team, how many people visit that. So we're putting on, for example, I'm working with City of Everett. I was with them today. They're going to provide me 2 links for families that really highlight what can they do in this area during the summer at no cost. So Jetty Island, the festivals. We're going to do something about the importance of math. We're going to put on the video link that we did last summer about the homeless. We're going to do the ANCS, have the ANCS film on there. Mm-hmm. So we're going to try to do professional development in a different way so that at any time parents can access it. So that's an area I think we still need to strengthen what's happening in K2. There's still such a gap when those 3rd grade teachers are working with our students to come from second to third, there's some strengthening needs to be happening there, and then just that continuous work with math. And high school, designed for 24 credits, so that's just continuous work.
Thank you. Yeah.
We gotta leave something.
I had a question on the security upgrades at schools, and this is probably something that like the principals or staff would need to answer, but I'm just wondering what the parent and student response has been to that. I mean, we've seen in the surveys, a heightened sense of lack of safety for students, and I'm just wondering if this has provided them some sort of confidence or recognition that we are actually working hard to make our schools safer. I don't know if you've had specific feedback on that.
I have not had specific feedback, some anecdotal feedback, and the feedback has been very positive from a few parents that I've talked with, and teachers. But maybe, I don't know if my colleagues have maybe heard otherwise.
We agree with Darcy. It's only been positive. Parents are very pleased that we're addressing safety and taking different measures, not just the physical, but the socio-emotional and also intellectual. That's a big part of the principal's evaluation and creating a culture. So again, there are many areas, not just the physical, but it's only been positive.
Right,
There's been a little additional work. I'm doing more than answering the question, Dr. Cohn, by the way. A little additional work on our office staff, but we've also found ways to support them too. I think that's been probably the biggest impact.
Thank you. And there was mention of launching Skill Center program. So are we having, I think this was you, Dana, are those Skill Center programs located in the schools, correct?
Correct. So I believe you'll remember we're members now of 2 skill centers, Snow Isle, which our students can travel to, as well as Wannock, that are programs that we can offer in our own schools.
Okay, so it's the Wannock in the school.
Yep. So we are launching the Core Plus Aerospace at Cascade, which is a 3-credit Wannock course. That'll launch this spring. Fall 2019, and then my head was going forward. And then our hope is that we'll have a 3-credit Wannock course to launch in fall 2020 related to medical and health careers. Similar to the way we launched the program at Cascade with a 1-credit course, kind of building the culture, building our understanding, at 1-credit course at the school, and then expanding that to 3 credits. That's our hopes as well for Everett High School's medical and health careers.
1-credit course is starting this fall, correct?
We
terminology.
We will start a 1-credit course this fall. Similarly, we started a 1-credit course at Cascade before we launched into the 3-credit course.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Well, thank you very much for our end of year report. It's been another great year, and do you think Ted heard the answers there?
I'm sure he did.
Ted is urging us all on. Okay.
He wants to know what they all cost too.
Yeah. All right. We will move to break, scheduled for 15 minutes. I think we'll go ahead and allow 2 minutes extra for eating cake, and we'll reconvene at 6:30. Do I actually gavel again? I don't.
You bet. Give them a shot. Smack it a couple of times.
Okay.
Until they pay close attention.
All right, we will move on to section 13.0, new business. First item is 13.01, approval of Washington School Improvement Framework Performance Improvement Goals.
Did we miss
No?
something? Did we skip something?
I missed, sorry, section 11, sorry.
That's right. Catherine's heart rate just went up.
I know.
Could come back down.
I apologize, Catherine. Okay, we will move to section 11,
Yes.
a board annual workshop planning.
Very short
Yes.
conversation.
We missed something.
You have your board workshop agenda draft. It's that summary version that we do for you. And we got together with the executive committee, which is the board president, vice president. We went through this, made some adjustments to the to the first early version of this thing, which I think I provided you at some point. And then cabinet worked it over a little bit on yesterday, made some adjustments and caught a few little, spelling kinds of things that were in the first get it done draft. We also had a chance to move some content out of that first draft into subsequent board workshops, work sessions, study sessions in the future, in order to create more time for you to have team building time with your new superintendent, and to concentrate a great deal more time, frankly, on your bond activity, bond preparation activity, and hear from members of the bond committee and spend time trying to come to as close to, if not closure, on what you want in that bond going into the coming year. So really the question today is do you have any questions? Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Your executive team asked that we check in with Washington State University for location. We did so. The university has set aside that conference room for you for both days. The first floor, big glass room. Yeah, for both days, and therefore I was able to put that on your draft as the location. And the chancellor's calendar has been adjusted so that he'll be there to start the day with you.
Excellent.
Anything else you'd like me to talk about, Carol, with respect to the draft as it stands? Oh, yes, I'm sorry, there's one more thing. And that is, I did explain to Ian your desire to have Pam work with you, and we scheduled Pam to meet with Ian with me on the Thursday, which is the day that you'll be going through the agenda, that we'll be going through the agenda, and you'll get to sit through agenda setting. And then during our session that follows that, we can spend some time talking about this. He and I talked briefly about this today, and he wasn't really in a position to have asked enough questions and understand what the intent is to then contribute some. So we expect we'll do that on the 27th when we get together, which is just fine in terms of timing. We're not in a rush. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so as Dr. Cohn explained, we did put a real focus on capital planning in this workshop.
And
with good reason.
Board superintendent relations.
And board superintendent relations, yes.
Making sure we have lots of time to work through with Dr. Salzman, sort of process and protocol and.
So we thought it was best to allow more time to discuss superintendent's goals, our goals specifically, but also just really focus on hearing from the bond committee. Bond committee is probably the wrong term.
Yes, it was the bond planning.
Okay, bond planning committee. And then be able to have a lot of time to be able to discuss how we want to move forward. So with that in mind, do directors have any concerns as to timing or content or suggested changes?
It's an all-day thing for the 20th and the 21st.
Yes.
Both days.
I have a conflict at the moment for the 20th. I'll have to, can't confirm whether I can move it or not yet.
Oh. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
We did, yeah.
I can try, but I still have to check stuff.
Okay.
For the board annual meeting, we allocated 45 minutes. Apparently, he's going to have it already mapped out, and all we're going to do is.
You're going to see that later in this agenda, so you get your first pass at it now.
1403.
You'll be able to give some comments. And then really that workshop was pretty much for final adjustments and looking at it in the context of your goals and the superintendent's goals. Because you adjust, that annual plan gets, while we try not to make big adjustments in it, so people can plan the investments in their work for you. We try to sort of make sure that there's some level of flexibility, so you're not hard, fast committed to every single thing in there. Certainly, the consent agenda changes every time, regularly.
45 minutes is going to be an hour.
Well, I think it will be.
Yeah.
I think it will be. I don't think you'll have a problem with that.
We will discuss it this evening, and it kind of morphs throughout the year anyway, it seems.
Yeah. I think adding the 2 hours.
So just double checking, you are both available on the 20th and 21st?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll confirm with Tracy, and probably a little difficult to move it at this point.
For whom?
Well, Jamyong says he has a conflict on the 20th.
Well, I don't know. Do you want to check your calendars regarding the 21st and 22nd versus the 20th and 21st and see if that works for you? All four of you, and then you can check with Tracy. Remember,
Well,
I could possibly make 20th work. I just can't confirm it right now.
check. You come back later and
Yeah.
figure it out.
Okay.
Remember, we used to do this on Thursday, Friday. We set these dates for Ted's get together with his guys, right?
Right.
His annual thing. So the Tuesday, Wednesday wasn't designed for the whole board, honestly.
Oh.
And it used to be, was right before graduation. Right, that last
Well,
day, we
not-
had graduation.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So it could change then.
Absolutely.
That time is available as well.
Yeah, you're not, I mean, there isn't any particular reason that you have to do it on Tuesday, Wednesday. It could be a Wednesday, Thursday, it could be a Thursday, Friday, it could be a Monday, Tuesday, if that's what you wanted to do.
We have board agenda review on the 22nd.
Yeah.
Okay,
Your lunch activity.
all right. So
I mean, you could do different things.
let us know.
Okay.
Okay. So stay tuned for final dates, but any other comments as to the workshop agenda? Nope, okay.
Very
I think
good.
We'll go with that.
We'll leave it the way it is until we hear more.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Now we move to we're very excited about that, and I'm sure Catherine is too.
Yes. Actually, we'll skip through unfinished business as there is none and move to the Washington School Improvement Framework performance.
Yeah, just a quick reminder, we presented this to you as an information item previously, and I recommended that you put it on your calendar rather than as on your calendar for consideration as new business, even if briefly, rather than putting it in the consent agenda, just so that we could refresh ourselves and you could see whether or not there was anything that cropped up subsequent to our last conversation before you say, yes, we think this makes sense, your rationale is reasonable, and we should go forward with these, this goal set. So, Catherine, if you wouldn't mind.
So I'm going to start actually on slide 29 rather than go to the beginning of explaining all of the calculations for WASF, although as you know, I would be happy to do that. So just as a reminder, I'm here tonight as a result of WAC 180-105, which is changes to the school improvement plan goals. And this is in addition to WAC 180-16-220, which remains in effect. And in effect, this new law requires the Board of Directors annually before September 1st to adopt district-wide performance goals and direct schools within a district, grades 3 through 8 in high school, to establish goals to meet each of the Washington State or Washington School Improvement Framework elements. And last week we went through each of those elements, and I showed you our current data. The law asks you to be consistent with the state, and in this case with the ESSA. Proficiency, ELPA 21 progress, and graduation rate have goals within ESSA. Proficiency is 90% for all and every subgroup by 2027. ELPA 21 progress is 77% of EL students making progress within 6 years by 2027, and graduation is 90% for all and every subgroup by 2027. And then the 4 remaining goals, attendance and student growth percentiles, which pertain to student growth percentiles pertain to elementary and middle school only. Attendance pertains to all levels, and then dual credit and 9th grade on track pertain only to high school, and those would be the goals that you would set. And our recommendation is to align those with the ones already set by the state. So for 9th grade on track, we would recommend setting that at 90%, and you can see our data here from each of our schools. For dual credit, we would recommend setting it in alignment with the EL progress goal at 75%, and that's because 9th grade on track, dual credit includes students in grades 9 through 12, and 9th graders have a much lower chance of getting a dual credit class than other grade levels, so 75% seems like a much more reasonable goal. For median school student growth percentiles, we would recommend the 75th percentile for elementary and middle school. You can see our data here for ELA and math. While we talked about this last week, while math lags behind, I think that there's a pretty clear message from the state around setting the goals to ensure that the most students possible are included, as evidenced by the population size and by the fact that the goals are being set for all and every subgroup. And so though math lags, we would recommend it be the same goal as ELA. And then we see middle school. And then finally, attendance, we would recommend setting that at the 90% mark. And again, although middle school and high school lag behind elementary, we would recommend being consistent with that.
How will we fare with Sequoia? Because when you start looking at Sequoia, will they be included in that same count? And will we still be held accountable for an alternative?
Yes, yeah, they would be. And I think the message there is a belief that we can support kids to reaching those rigorous standards. And while Sequoia has lagged, and there are good reasons for that, those are students that struggle. We've also seen Sequoia students get into AP classes and enter college, and I think setting a lower bar for them would send the wrong message to them. And that's my opinion. The other thing that Dr. Cohn asked me to show you is just how we would roll this out, and my department's pretty excited about this, actually.
There was whooping and hollering down the hall, I'm telling you.
Yeah, we have a walk-up song when we do something really amazing, and we were playing it. In an effort to be innovative, as we try to be in my department, so what you're seeing here is our move to a program called Tableau, which you've seen several examples in terms of our data. This would be behind the staff sign-in page. And you can see here each of the targets, and I have mocked this up pending your ratification. Of course, this data can always be changed, but we did just want to show you principals would have access to each of these goals. Instead of having just a static page, they would pick their goals. So this is proficiency targets. And this right here is how you navigate the information. And so I would pick, for example, all for ELA, and then select my school. I've selected Eisenhower right here. The dots represent the targets getting us to 2027. The bars represent the actual data. When data is suppressed, it is simply missing until it is no longer suppressed. And so a school could come in and check each of their grade levels by ethnicity and by program, and then also look at what we would call as a target table, and this table gives the actual numbers. So for each one of our data sets, then our schools could look at this interactively, which is pretty exciting from our perspective.
Just teachers would have access to these, not parents?
Well, right now it's in the staff sign-in because it hasn't been, you haven't set the goals,
Right.
first of all, and we haven't talked about where this would be. There's no student data behind this. It's all already aggregated. So it is not, and it's all publicly available in spreadsheets from OSPI. So with the exception of the targets that we set, there's nothing inherently private. It would just be a decision, a district decision as to whether or not the targets would be visible or not. That would not be my decision.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I think that's pretty cool.
Student growth percentiles?
I think it's pretty cool.
It's really
Very,
Stand
yeah,
and
very
navigate.
graphically simple too.
Yep, it has a consistent look regardless of the metric that the school's looking at, so they don't have to learn a new system. And the navigation is all branded and ready to roll.
Thank you.
You bet.
Are there questions?
I have a question.
Director Mason?
So I don't think I really understand the 10-year timeline in terms of we have 10 years to achieve the percentages that we're looking at, correct?
Yes.
But along the way, I mean, what happens in if year 5 or 6 we realize we're just not making progress in a particular area, or 7 or 8, and recognize that maybe there's not enough time left, and and then I guess that it's kind of a two-part question, and then the second part of that is what happens when we don't meet our goals?
Right. Okay, so first part of the question is answered really in the law, which says that you annually thereafter this September 1, you would affirm, or you could, and potentially you could change the goals.
Okay.
So I think one question would be if we're not reaching our goals, why are we not? And do we have the resources in the places that we need to achieve those goals? That would be a question. But it is something that that you are going to look at annually.
Okay, thank you.
And as far as punishment system, I guess what I would just refer to is the actual Washington School improvement framework. So each of these elements in your school improvement plan are elements of the WASIF, and the WASIF is that is the vehicle by which schools are targeted for comprehensive or targeted support for a subgroup. We talked about this when we were talking about the WASIF being calculated, and I'm just pulling up Everett High here. So just reminding you that each of the elements that are in the WASIF, so here's Everett High, proficiency, growth, they don't have a growth score, graduation, English learner progress, regular attendance, 9th grade on track and dual credit. Those elements are now in their SIP plan, so that's what they're focused on. So if you think of this sort of like we think about our strategic plan falling to our annual operating plan, falling to our department and school improvement plans, all of these things are focused to achieve the same metrics, the same goals, right? So if schools have these elements in their SIP plan, then theoretically they're improving their WASIF score and they're staying out of assistance. So you see the threshold here of 2.3. So that was set in 2018. It was the first time that the WASIF was calculated, and that represents the highest score of the lowest 5% of performing schools. And when a school overall score falls below that 2.3, they're in comprehensive support by the state. The state comes in and provides them with support to get them where they need to be. They have things that they have to comply with. When a subgroup falls below this line, then they are in targeted support. And so that subgroup, be it special ed or an ethnic group, then there would be targeted support to get that group above the line. So we really, I will say OSPI has gone to great lengths to shift people's thinking around this being a consequence for not achieving the goal, and thinking of it in terms of where our goal is to identify the schools that need support and provide that support for you to get better. So by putting these elements in the SIP, they're in effect causing you to focus on your WASIF scores and stay out of comprehensive and targeted assistance.
What is it, for this particular Everett High School, it has pretty much American Indian and Alaska Native as in.
So that means they were suppressed because they were too small a group.
Yeah, because they could have 1 or 2, but what's in 10?
So this is a big change. N to be suppressed, you have to have less than 20 in 3 years in any combination. In the past, you had to have more than 10 in 1 year, and in 3 years more than 30. So now it's less than 20 in any 3-year period. So if you had 1 in 1 year, and 11 in another year, and 8 in another year, you would not be suppressed under this new rule. It's very intentional by ESSA and the state to include more students in these metrics so that kids are not, in effect, sort of invisible from that level of support.
Well, I could see like 20 is such a big number. Even in 3 years, you can have just one family. And they may have 3 kids.
Right, but think of it in terms of
years.
grade levels, right? So,
but if you have like 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, or, you know, and then they move up and you just have that same family moving in, you could suppress a whole category. I've been in a situation where you were like the only family, you know.
Well, we're seeing far less suppressed now with the new rule, because before you had to have at least 10 in a year, and now it can be 20 in any combination, even less than 10 in any one of those 3 years. So more groups will be unsuppressed.
You mean like liberated?
Not unoppressed, unsuppressed. Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
are you all clear?
I was hung up on looking at the numbers.
Go ahead, your way.
I was intrigued with looking at these numbers. I got sidetracked. Go ahead.
So Catherine, I want to make sure, so if the board says yes to the the recommendation that we've written. What they're in essence doing is adopting each of the bulleted sentences as the goals in this agenda item.
Yes, that is accurate, yes.
Okay, so what we'll do is we will transfer into the minutes each of those bulleted sentences down there that you see in the background. If I were to do this,
English language is at
proficiency, graduation rate,
77%.
English language, attendance, ninth grade on track, dual credit, and median school student growth percentile. Those are the targets.
Yes.
They don't have discretion on some of them, and they have discretion on some of them.
Right.
Right.
In order to be in alignment with the state goals, the first three are spelled out.
For
The
us.
others are not spelled out.
Okay,
Okay.
all right,
So that's the effect of your action, and we'll make sure that it gets recorded in the minutes that way.
okay.
No, you have to include all of them.
7, yeah. So if I were to do this over again and thought about it a little bit more deeply, I might have put this into a resolution for you. But I didn't.
Okay. So the recommended action is that the Board of Directors approve the recommended performance goals to be implemented as part of the Washington School Improvement Framework, and those goals are, as we just mentioned, set forth.
The dark
in the-
bullets, not the hollow bullets, the dark bullets.
The dark bullets, right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
This is almost like poker.
Been moved by Director Mason and seconded by Director Lassane that we approve the performance goals as set forth the agenda item.
Question. This gets us out really in the open as far as setting goals and meeting the targets by a certain particular time frame. What are the negatives behind that you see right now of us not meeting the goals that we set and not, what kind of negatives will come out of this? I mean,
Well-
I could see if we don't meet them and we constantly change them, that doesn't look good.
Right.
We don't want to do that.
That's what the state's hoping, you'll think. I mean,
So
seriously, that's what.
there's not a direct consequence of not meeting your goals. The only real sort of consequences are related to falling below that threshold in the Washington School Improvement Framework, which causes you to be in comprehensive or targeted support. So in theory, if we're working on these goals, that's not going to happen. And in fact, we have 27 schools and we have 10 subgroups in each of those schools. That's 270 different ways we could have been in support, and we had 4 targeted support. So when I say that, I mean 4 groups in 4 schools. That's, I'm doing the math in my head, so.
16 out of 270.
Yeah, it's less than 2%, So in comparison to other districts, I would say we're in very good shape in terms of meeting our goals. So, we've been through this sort of goal setting before with our equity targets, and in the past through the AMOs that were related to No Child Left Behind. And so we're going to have to set goals, and I think we have a tendency to achieve goals that we feel accountable to in this district. So I feel good about the goals.
Is there extra funding by the state when you have a targeted subgroup that falls below?
They provide a support person, but do you get money? If you're in targeted support?
Yes, we have grants.
Grants.
Like Sequoia, grant.
Okay.
Rewarding failure.
Rewarding failure. Well, no. It's supporting failure. Not rewarding.
Okay, are we Ready for the vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
You bet.
Couple policy reviews.
Larry will lead us through policy reviews, revisions.
Yeah, the good news is this will be my last presentation of policies to you.
Oh, no.
I have nothing on the next agenda, so.
He means for this school year.
School year.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Like, who's taking it over?
There's a
from
nice
you?
reprieve on July 2nd.
Two meetings left.
And the revisions I'm bringing forward tonight are minor revisions just to make sure that we have all of our language aligned to the new discipline policy changes. So it will be a bit repetitive, and I apologize for that. First off, tonight is proposed revisions to policy 3240, student conduct expectations and sanctions, which include minor changes based on the requirements in OSPI's student discipline rules and aligned to recent changes made to policy 3300 that was on tonight's consent agenda for second read. Revisions to policy 3240, student conduct expectations and sanctions, have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting. And as you can see from the draft here, it's really just making sure the terminology is aligned. We have eliminated corrective action as a term within student discipline now.
Like the fact that in a language they can understand was added. Very important.
Yep.
That was good.
Yep.
Any questions on this proposed revision? Hearing none, we'll move it to next meeting for a second reading.
Revisions to policy 3318, discipline of special education students, have been drafted for your consideration to comply with the impending changes in the state discipline rules that go into effect on July 1st, and also to align to revisions made to policy 3300, student discipline, on tonight's consent agenda. Changes include updated references to other district policies and pertinent RCWs. The proposed revisions to policy 3318, discipline of special education students, have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Any questions on this policy revision? Proposed revision, excuse me.
I'm looking at this. I can't remember which one it is. 8, no. No, not this one, sorry. My question's in a minute.
Okay.
Okay. We will move this to next meeting for second reading.
Proposed revisions to policy 3320, disciplinary appeal council, have been made to align to our current policy, to align our current policy to changes made to the state discipline rules effective July 1st, as well as revisions already made to policy 3300, student discipline. Revisions to policy 3320, disciplinary appeal council, have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Questions on this proposed revision? Okay, thank you. We'll move that to next meeting.
Proposed revisions to policy 3332, teacher responsibilities and rights, have been drafted to comply with changes in the state discipline rules regarding student exclusion from the classroom, as well as revisions to policy 3300, student discipline. Revisions to policy 3332, teacher responsibilities and rights, have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Any questions on this revision? Proposed revision? Nope. Okay. We will move that also to next meeting.
Revisions to policy 3333, principal responsibilities and principal and assistant principal authority and rights are also provided for the board's consideration this evening to comply with changes in the state discipline rules, as well as revisions to policy 3300, student discipline. Proposed revisions to policy 3333, principal responsibilities and principal and assistant principal authority and rights, have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Any questions on this proposed revision?
Excuse me, Larry, with a lot of these, we've added in the comment that the principal shall give a publication pertaining to students' rights, conduct, and discipline. Isn't that also in the student's handbook?
That's what it's referring to.
So each student receives it when they come in. They have to sign it every year. And I know as a parent, I kept a copy, right in the kitchen cabinet that I keep all my school stuff in, dates and calendars. Why would we have to give them another copy if they received it?
This is the copy they received.
So the principals is the school, essentially, when they first...
Yeah, it's the principal's responsibility to provide that to the families.
Okay.
Yes, and this is because of the particular title of this, principal responsibilities. It is ultimately their job to ensure that is distributed each year.
Okay, gotcha.
It's not the second time, it's the time.
It's the time.
It's that time.
It's the time.
It's the one time it gets done. This is specifying that that principal's supposed to do that.
Okay.
Because it doesn't come out from the district.
I got it. So do we actually, now that things have become so digitized, do we actually provide a hard copy? Even now, will we continue to provide hard copies to every student?
It's a great question. We're actually in the process of transitioning to electronic copies.
Okay.
One of the things that the LITS team and Brian's department is working on with teaching and learning is to embed a copy of the student rights and responsibilities electronically on each student's one-to-one device on their desktop that can't be removed. In addition to providing links to parents as well. Hard copies are always available, and remember, we do translate our student rights and responsibilities into 5 different languages.
Right. Because of that, I just look at it so much easier to send it electronically than to give them that hard paper copy.
Yep.
But I just don't know where we sit on that now. Do we still sit on hard copy distribution all the time, or were we going digitized?
No, we're going digital. So those schools who are in one-to-one next year, especially all the high schools and those middle schools that are one-to-one, they will only be receiving electronic copies.
Gotcha.
And then once
parent sign-off form?
We still do distribute the acknowledgement of receipt and also the FERPA, you sign your FERPA form and all that. We still provide that to the families and reference where they can look at this, the digital copy. And it also gives notice there about requesting a paper copy directly from the main office if they would prefer.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
You cover it?
Yes.
We're good? Okay.
We're good.
All right.
Okay, we'll move this to next meeting, second reading.
Proposed revisions to policy 3530, student fundraising activities, include a brief addition to address sponsorship opportunities related to student fundraising that is separate from policy 6815, which was listed in tonight's consent agenda, and the new procedure 6815, advertising on district property. Proposed revisions to policy 3530, student fundraising activities, have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Any questions? Okay, we'll move this to second reading.
Proposed revisions to policy 4207, regulation of firearms and dangerous weapons on school district property, are minor, adding language required by OSPI regarding the notification of student violations to parents and guardians.
This was part of the
comprehensive program review.
CPR?
Yeah. And we had previously brought this to the board in the last month or two. it's always been our practice, of course, to notify parents, but specifically we needed to indicate that in this particular policy. So we're bringing it back to make sure we're fully
Is there
compliant.
any conflict once a student becomes 18 or with notifying parents, or no?
As long as they're an Everett Public School student, we still do notify
Okay.
parents if they have parent contacts. 18-year-old students can, of course, request to not have us contact parents, as they are a legal adult. There is a form and a process for them doing that. It's very rare that we have them do that. So,
thank you.
Any questions on this proposed revision?
There's nobody there.
Okay, we'll move it to next meeting for a second reading.
And finally tonight, and for this school year, proposed revisions to policy 4314, visitors and/or disruption of school operations, set forth language for the superintendent to establish guidelines to address concerns regarding animals on district property. In the background section of this agenda item, the animal control or leash laws for the city of Everett and the city of Mill Creek have been provided for director's reference. The proposed revisions to policy 4314, visitors and/or disruption of school operations, has been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
It's really funny that you would put animals and visitors together. It just seemed so funny when I saw this.
Yeah. And the majority of what is reflected here will be in the procedure for that. But yes, it's assumptive that an adult or human visitor brings their animal with them. So I guess it could get loose, but.
Since this is all new language added, what effect does it have?
Mm-hmm. Well, for our procedures specifically, and you'll see in the cross-reference or legal reference section here, we have indicated the liability of pet owners, particularly dogs, of their liability for dog bites. And one of the things that the procedure intends to address is what is the appropriate access for the community if they were to have a leashed animal for district property. Of course, we have closed campuses for our elementaries and middle schools, and then a limited open campus just for our students who have lunch privileges. But they are closed to the public during the school day. This is more reflective and comprehensive of access as a whole of leashed animals on our district property.
Does this at all influence, I don't know whether we have this in schools, but bringing of comfort dogs for anxiety and all that?
Yeah, we have a service animal policy as well. And let me see if that's in the cross-reference here.
Yeah, it's cross-reference.
Yeah, service animals in schools is 2030, policy 2030. At the bottom of page 1. And then animals in school is actually a related student policy around animals in the classroom setting. So there's restrictions on that as well.
Doesn't restrict like when teachers have those bring your pet to school day and they show the animals off, does it?
It actually does. We don't, I don't know if I can expand on that answer. We don't, the policy referenced here, animals in schools does restrict students from bringing their random pet to school. Some sort of, you may have heard of Alligator Man, which is a very popular assembly. That is obviously something we go into a contract with somebody to bring animals on. Oh, Reptile Man, I'm sorry. It's Reptile Man, not Alligator Man. That's down there at the pier, right? Alligator Man.
Sure it's not crocodile.
Yes. So we go into agreements and contracts for that, for their liability when we sign a contract. So if they bring those animals as an assembly, they have a liability if they were to injure a student.
A long time ago, where kids brought their pets to class, we're not going to do that any longer.
You're right, Pam. long time ago.
Long time ago. No, I remember my son taking his animal to school one day because they were supposed to bring their pets, you know. And so I just don't know about that. And that same day he got a Scooby-Doo dog and some years ago.
Yeah. As Dr. Stewart mentions, now we've transitioned to Bring Your Stuffed Animal Day. It's a joke.
They don't bite.
Nobody's allergic to them.
Pretty much not.
But with not allowing animals on district property, say you were walking your child to school, to go to elementary school, you don't go beyond, I mean, you cannot walk them up to the front door of the school and drop them off when you've got your dog on a leash, correct?
Yeah. For example, if you were on a public sidewalk and you were walking towards the school, as you reach district property, your child would continue on.
Right.
It was that way when I was walking my kids to school, and it was enforced because I brought our dog, and they're like, nope, can't come up.
Yeah.
The big deal on this, frankly, is that people aren't cleaning up after their animals, especially in our athletic fields. And we're moving to, yes, we know you're a taxpayer. Yes, we know you pay for this. But unfortunately, people are leaving droppings on the fields, and the kids and the staff and the equipment is being severely impacted. And enough's enough. No more pets on the athletic fields.
And synthetic fields in particular.
What?
The synthetic fields, which have no natural way of dealing with it.
Right.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah. Okay.
Thank you. As you add more synthetic fields, yes, that's a mess, and it's not easy to clean up. We could be more graphic and give you photos and, charts, but we decided this probably wasn't necessary.
We're good.
Okay.
You will get reaction from this. I don't want you to be, surprised. You will get reaction from this. And I can guarantee you some of Mr. Moore's neighbors will call, because that happened when I shut down the fields at Monroe to get them to grow. You're going to get.
Same film my son took a dog to.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on this proposed revision?
No.
We will move this to next meeting for second reading.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the next 2 meetings off. Policies.
Thank you, Larry.
There you go, too.
Let's give Larry a round of applause. He's got a good policy here.
Get a break.
We'll move on to section 14.0. Dr. Cohn, please.
Thank you very much. Item 14.1 identifies your special meeting on the 25th of June, which is next Tuesday. You will have a study session on CTE program, STEM pathways, career connected learning. It is going to be a doozy. Community members involved, and I believe students as well. So Dana's done a tremendous amount of work organizing and prepping this. It combines two previous study sessions into one as a result of the press of business this year. If we can get the agreement about the use of the athletic field and fees, the baseball field and fees from the college, I'll get it on that as an action item following all of your study session, because you'll have people here, you don't want to deal with that while they're here. But if we can get it done by then, I'll get it on that agenda. Otherwise, I don't know. We'll see. Item 14.2 is at your regular meeting on July 2nd, and you have the second reading of the policies we just identified. You've got an integrated technology plan status report with the information on looking forward to the next capital levy that we talked about the possibility of having in your workshop. That's being accelerated. Brian went over that with Cabinet yesterday. So not only you're getting an update on the plan, but you're getting the back up and say, okay, what might the next one look like based on our experiences? How big might it be? What might we need to be paying for? And that will make that a little bit more robust. I've assigned him 60 minutes rather than 30 or 40 minutes because of the complexity of the work, and you'll decide, we'll decide when we get to it on Thursday of next week, because we're putting that thing together, how long you really want to spend on it. Then you've got the operating budget first reading, Ms. Moore's staff will be doing that for you, as well as a number of routine consent agenda items. And you've got your recognition of new administrators who will be fresh off the bus on Tuesday afternoon, and looking forward to seeing you after their 2-day tour of the district and its activities. activities related to that orientation. Item 14.3 is your board annual plan first draft, at least the first public draft that we deal with. We've been working it internally a bit, and I've asked Peter to just give you some highlights because a number of the things you know are roll forward, so the areas that we really concentrate on with you are the strategic progress monitoring items, the placement of those items, the study session, work session content, and then general, if there are any significant general operating business items that, like acting on a bond resolution, things of that nature, right? So Peter, if you would just a real quick overview and then stand for questions, please.
Absolutely. So high-level overview. As a cabinet, Dr. Cohen mentioned that we reviewed this twice in the last week or so, having studied your ranked preferences both times. We highlighted a few items here for discussion. Happy to go through item by item, but I wanted just to call a couple of things to your attention. You might have already noticed them. And we know we're going to dive into this in more detail at the board workshop in late August. But the first one is the historical sequence where we've had Greg Lobdell precede Catherine Matthews, which is the case here on the 17th of September and then the 24th of September. I am aware, though, or we are aware, that the community engagement planning session, the study session, is a very high priority. And the idea of, I think a question I would pose is whether or not it would suffice to stay on October 1, or would you prefer to move it at the earliest possible spot on September 17, which would then, it would cause a move. We could put Greg on October 1 and Catherine on October 8. It's possible to do it. Things would just kind of domino effect down if you wanted to if you preferred to hold the community engagement plan earlier. So that's a question. I can pause there before we go to page 2.
Right after school starting, right?
I think the question is
a community engagement on the 17th. With school starting on the 5th, it would kind of. I'm just wondering how would parents feel about a community engagement plan?
my understanding that this would be it'd be part and parcel of the bond development work that we have in a series of board study sessions here. This would be the first of such a series, yeah. Yeah, so I think the question is, would you like it 2 weeks earlier? And then we can just move Greg and Catherine down in that sequence?
I think because the other data is something that is not particularly time sensitive, that moving makes more sense, which just gives us a longer runway of really implementing the community engagement piece and understanding how it's going to look and work.
Yeah.
That would be more important. That would be my feeling.
I agree. It's a pretty good follow-up, too, to our summer workshop.
Right.
17th, I won't be. Constitution Days. It's another day.
We could put a little star there.
It's another day.
Well, we might also look at, is that a Tuesday?
That's a Tuesday.
I mean, we don't have to have a study session on a Tuesday, or we can do a morning, or if there's an opportunity to make changes.
So aim for that week, but earlier than October 1 is what I'm hearing.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Are you looking at it as 7:30 in the morning, not 4:30?
That would be up to you, I think. We absolutely could.
Great if it were 7:30 in the morning.
I can do either.
Okay.
Do you have a preference, Director Nankar, as to morning or afternoon meetings? Is one better than the other?
September
17th, it's a Tuesday.
I'm open regardless, either way.
Okay, let's tentatively plan on the 17th in the morning.
Great. Okay, we'll make that change. If you're ready to go to page 2.
I have a question on page 1 before we move on. On the 24th, you have recognition, new admin staff. How is that different than the principals and such that will be here?
We typically have a round 2 for administrators that are hired after the bus trip.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And just as an aside, we did our best on the last 2 columns here to make sure that they were updated. It doesn't have anything to do with that particular item about recognition, but particularly with the consent agenda, these are our best guesses right now. So these are them.
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. If we're ready to go to page 2, we can come back to page 1 if you'd like. Just calling your attention, obviously, to the open areas on October 29, November 5 for strategic progress monitoring. November 19 would be that follow-up and review from the feedback that Brian and team will receive at the board workshop. So we felt like that was a healthy distance between the board workshop and November 19 there. You see page 3 also has several open slots for emergent issues. Or none at all. Page 4 on.
Can I stop for just a moment? The integrated tech plan on November 19th. So we're doing one next meeting in July, and then we come back. How often do we do that each year?
We do it twice a year.
Twice a year?
Yeah.
Okay.
We do it twice a year because you asked for it twice a year. If you don't want it twice a year anymore, say you don't want it twice a year. You can do that.
Wondering if one good update in the spring is better than, because we're going to have a big one next meeting, and then to come back, this isn't that far into the school year at all. I would rather see a summary of the year's work, personally. I'll throw that out for discussion.
A summary at year end.
Yeah, more in this, it doesn't have to be the last meeting of the year, but something more in the springtime that talks about the successes.
Provided as a Friday report.
Yeah, in the meantime.
Yeah. And then have a big major report in.
Yeah, and if you change your mind, there's a few openings that you could plug it in as issues arise. If they arise, we could do that. So we will then shoot for the June 23rd, 2020 report. That was the spring report. Not quite as late as it is this year, but it'll be earlier next year.
Where are you looking, Pam? What date? Oh, the 14th, okay.
January, the 28th of January, with math performance, what we learned in the SIP. Wouldn't it be good to get earlier information, or is that the earliest?
I think this is right around semester time, so we're going to be able to see, we're going to have time to collate a large data set and look analytically at the data as well as qualitatively at the balanced math model and progress to date. And so we haven't had a balanced math model report since we had one small report since our bigger studies 2-hour study session we had. I think that was the fall of 2017.
But see, this is right around the time we're going to school improvement plans, the soft. Just overshadowed.
I think what our thinking was there was it may be a good bookend in a launch to the saucer season, potentially things to look for, and then we have the saucer 2-hour study session analysis piece there. So if you see them as bookends, that was kind of the way we were thinking about that.
But this,
a lot of information came out during the summer regarding these science.
this is the first year that we've done the new science test, correct? And we'll have results, well, we got SBA results. I guess what I'm asking is, we'll have results by the end of summer, correct, on this on the science?
Yes, we should, late summer.
I'm just wondering, to Pam's question, if, like putting it back in November 19th that we just cleared up a little bit where, or,
Results of those SBA.
Yeah, we've got two things we want to do. We're still talking about the NGSS report, correct? Yeah, we want to do two things there. One, we are absolutely prepared to talk about 2 years worth of WACAS data in 5th grade, 8th grade, and then in high school. We also want to talk about the course development process at the high school level. So we will be into year 3 in our series of building out courses at the high school level that align to NGSS. So we wanted to showcase that as well.
and so that you can't do it in November, or I guess I'm trying to understand the timing.
Yeah, we could do it.
I think having that information going into saucers, understanding the impacts of the standards and.
Our preparations.
Right.
So move NGSS to the 19th of November. Okay.
Else.
I just think it would be, at that point in time, we received a lot of information out of the saucers. And during the saucers as regarding the science and math performances, having that information earlier before the saucers, because
Saucers kind of start in early January, don't they?
they
Yeah.
start in
Yeah,
January.
yeah. So that's not that late on the board, but I'd like to see it
I'd
earlier.
like to see it before
We talked about the math one.
NGSS.
Yeah, I think we moved the NGSS to November 19 in that open spot. I think that'll work.
And can we bump the math up to the 14th?
Sure, we could do that. Yeah, we could do that.
That way we'll go into the saucer season with fresh data on science and math, kind of 2 areas of concern, or not concern, but change.
Well, absolutely, areas of focus for sure. Yeah, that was the reason for their, part of the reason for their inclusion here. Yeah. And concern. We don't want to, no, really, that's why we are creating this particular presentation. I'll call to your attention on page 4. Instead of having a standalone study session on social emotional learning, we thought that we would include it in the life readiness piece of the strategic progress monitoring. So that's an open question as to whether or not you'd want an update like you've had in the last 3 years on social emotional learning in a study session format versus integrated under the auspices of college, career, and life readiness. That was the question.
I like the integrated approach.
Hearing a yes on the integrated?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. In a similar fashion, on March 31, to integrate strategic partnerships within a career-connected learning context.
Okay.
And those were really the sort of the highlights that we had in our notes. But if you see anything here that you'd like to discuss.
So is the meeting on the 31st going to be a report out of the summer? Or is it looking forward, or both?
I'm sorry, what month are you?
March 31st.
March 31st, the
Oh, March
special meeting?
31st.
I'm sorry. What did I say?
You just said the 31st.
Oh, sorry.
Is it March 31?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question about?
Is it a report out of sort of the summer programs, or is it looking forward, or an update, or everything, or?
All of the above, really, with the internship program, with the career pathways, with the Core Plus program, course equivalencies. It's going to be the most comprehensive presentation that we could put together on.
I just ask whether there's an opportunity to move that any earlier in the year, given that by spring, plans will be sort of in the process. I mean, I assume by that point in the springtime, most of the plans are in place for the summer, the coming summer, or not, or is there still?
I just, one of the pieces I hope you walk away with next week is that career-connected learning is more than our internships,
Okay.
right? So it's we can think kindergarten through 12th grade. CTE is a part of that. And so I see this as year-round work and not just summer work.
Okay.
But I'm
Yeah, and that
happy
makes sense.
to facilitate this at whatever point in the year you think it would benefit your study.
Well, I kind of forgot because it's ahead that we have a whole robust session coming up, so.
And there's been a lot of buzz about internships, and so that could kind of.
Yeah, thank you.
So is the January 21st capital bond special meeting, is that the date that the bond needs to be decided upon?
Which meeting?
I thought we were going to do that this summer.
January 21st.
Jeff, what's the filing date for April?
February 22nd.
Very good. So you can.
Give or take a day.
Yeah, but I don't think that. I mean, I don't think that was the issue, was it? Right? Maybe we misplaced that.
Well,
Because
this is the third in a series of bond run-up. So the first was that community, the community.
Engagement.
Sorry, the one we moved up to, community engagement, that we moved up to September 17, and then we'd have one on October 15, and then we'd have the third on January 21, was the thinking. So six total hours on bond development, bond run-up strategy. That was the thinking there. And there are some open study session spots between that.
That timing doesn't make sense to me, because you're suggesting that we're maybe not going to make a decision as a board until after January 21st?
No, we weren't suggesting that. We were suggesting that if there are any other, if you make a decision, then we would remove those.
If you recall, in our conversations, and Mike was absent in them, we took away bond planning, I think.
Yeah, one didn't.
Okay, one's still there, and more reserved bond processing or whatever we may need to do to fully prepare and inform our community about the proposal that you've already decided on. So we can omit them, but we more or less left them there as placeholders, not to imply a decision wouldn't be made early, but there may be enrollment updates, there may be critical information that we've bookmarked to continue to communicate not only through the advocacy of our levy committee, but also through opportunities for us to study and understand emerging issues or whatever may come.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
No, thank you for that. That's helpful.
Well, I like the fact that there are some blank spots in this.
Yeah.
Because when
There's
we.
always something.
It gives us some latitude to add and move around and.
We have one thing more, and I apologize for going backwards, but the 24 credit planning update, what would that entail? What kind of update will that be? Because is it going to reflect what the incoming class in that fall will be required to do? Is it going to?
So you recall that we had that, the 24 credit plan update tacked to Jeannie's presentation.
Right.
I think it was this past June 4th. And so a standalone would answer some of the questions that you had asked at the end of that presentation relative to current class status plus a discussion on any structural changes, because the strategy, we don't anticipate the suite of strategies changing because they're largely working, but an unanswered question, and it's a very, very big question, is to what extent would we need to consider long-term structural changes to the high school schedule that have major financial implications and bargaining implications and other factors.
Okay. So I guess with those changes we discussed, that as we don't vote on this, right? So just those changes, and then we'll discuss this further at the retreat.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Into section 15.0, we do not have an executive or closed session this evening. So moving to 16.01, this concludes the business of Everett Public Schools Board of Directors on June 18th, 2019. This meeting is adjourned.